XOXO, got the girl. Pose. Audra at Home is filmed in front of a live Pitbull audience. Good morrow and merry meet. My name is Audra and you are in for a treat. All right, so if you have questions about this look, the chances are, hopefully, if I've done things appropriately, this look is already actually up. There's a video with me doing it, talking about what I've watched. Anywhoozits, that's not what you're here for today. Today, we are here to talk about another reason why viewership in beauty YouTube has declined. It's like coming back up, but I wanted to talk about like why it declined. And please keep in mind that when I talk about this, in no way am I saying that the beauty community is dead. It is not. It is continuing the way it's always going to continue. As long as there's makeup, there will be space on YouTube for beauty content. And also, I am looking at this as a creator and as a subscriber because I myself have found myself sometimes like lacking and wanting to watch beauty content. And now we're going to talk about the thing that nobody asked for, but you're getting anyway, the pandemic. The pandemic had a huge ripple effect on viewership of beauty YouTube. And I think we're finally starting to see like we're getting over that hump a little bit right now. But I kind of wanted to talk about it and just like talk about what I saw happen. I don't know. I'm sitting so awkwardly because I didn't know how to sit. You know how sometimes you just like, have you ever had that where you go to sit down, you're like, what do I do with my limbs? Anyways, that's a me thing. Like, where do I put things now that I'm sitting in a different way? Do I put my leg here? Do I put it there? Do I put it everywhere? So when it comes to the pandemic, I feel like when this started, right? It was like scary, but we didn't really fully understand. I feel like a lot of us did not fully understand the impact of what was happening. And at first, like it was scary because we didn't really know what was going on. We didn't know how it was passed and all that stuff. And then we're all just like being told to be at home. You know, working from home wasn't even like the original option. At first, it was just like, everybody just take this time off for a lot of jobs. It was just like use vacation, whatnot. And I feel like for a lot of Americans, and this is in no way trying to make light of all the lives that have been lost thus far. But I feel like for a lot of Americans at the start of this, when we didn't really understand its impact, it was like a much, much needed vacation from work. It was something that many of us hadn't been able to have ever, and it was being thrust upon us, which financially impacted people as well, right? But I feel like for a moment there, it was just like, oh, I can rest. This is weird. I don't know what to do with myself when I'm not
being an indentured servant at my job.
So initially when this started, beauty content started to skyrocket, right? Because not everyone, a large amount of people had disposable income they wouldn't normally have because they would have spent that money going to and from work, buying lunch, and all the work-related stuff that we all have to do when we have jobs. You know, commuting to work, getting coffee, getting lunch, all of the things that we used to spend that money on, we suddenly didn't have to spend it there. We were home, and you could finally, I feel like a lot of people could finally indulge in those purchases that they hadn't been able to indulge in before. For instance, all of them, and I've talked about this previously, but I felt like every brand started to have a full-on fire sale, and it was intense. Like every brand was just like, sale, sale, sale. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of us bought a lot more things than we'd ever intended on buying, myself included. And I feel like part of that too had to do with the fact that like the mail suddenly got bottlenecked because no one was anywhere. Everything had kind of shut down for a short period of time. And then the mail was just like not really coming, obviously. So we just kept buying things and kind of forgetting. If you're like me, you just like forgot you bought stuff. And then you were like, oh my God, when the bottleneck loosened up, it was like, holy shit, why do I have so much stuff? It was a lot of stuff. But also with regards to beauty YouTube, the content started coming because we were all home too. A lot of like myself included, a lot of people who do YouTube have a 9 to 5 job in addition to YouTube as a side gig. And that being the case, we were also grounded as well. And we figured, why not make more content than I've ever made before, as well as live stream? And at first, I feel like that was amazing for all of us, to be honest. I feel like it was such a great thing because we were able to not only create more content, but the live streaming aspect of it allowed us to like interact in ways that we had never really been able to interact with our subscriber base before. We had never been able to really interact with our viewers like this in a really long time. And this was much needed at this point, because for the first time, really ever for a lot of people, they just like weren't leaving their houses. And I think a lot of people underestimated how much they needed human contact. I do not need human contact. I'm perfectly fine with my dog, but some people did. Some people needed. I do need a little bit of human contact, but we needed, to be able to reach out and touch each other without reaching out and touching each other, and the live streams really offered up a space for people to just be and talk to each other and make parasocial friendships and also make internet friends. And it just gave us a space to be like human beings when it felt like this got more serious, right? It was serious from the jump. We just didn't know how serious it was. And then it started to get more serious and it started to be scarier and scarier. And it felt like this was a place you could come to just kind of avoid all of the horrors that were happening outside, right? All of the things that were going horrifically wrong, all of the racial tension in this country. It just felt like here was a space you could go to just kind of like have a break from the world. Because I know myself, I don't watch the news. It's one of the reasons why I love having streaming services. I can choose if I want to engage in world news or not. And if I don't want to, I don't have to. I can just kind of live a chill life that isn't fraught with like hatred and danger and darkness and awfulness. It's nice to have like a rainbow, and I feel like at first it was great because like, you could communicate with everybody. There was so much content, and because of the fact that you could like now, especially as people started working from home, because you could now like actively watch a video while you worked. Perfection. You could have it up on your TV. You could be watching it on your phone. You could have so you could be working away, just tap, 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 while also watching all of the content that you've been wanting to watch. If you were like me in any way, a lot of times you would just like wait until you got home and you'd finish doing all the things you needed to do and it was relaxed time, and you would watch the stuff that you had missed or wanted to watch, and it was just like a little hour of chill beauty content, watching a few people try some new things and all of that, right? Take a shower, take a bath, chill out. But now all of a sudden you could watch all of it. You could watch the end of beauty YouTube. And by end, I mean, you could finish every single one of your faves videos and then be like, what's next? I need more stimulation, please. And so with that being the case, I feel like it was just an oversaturation of content, right? At some point, it starts to be like, this is a lot, right? Everybody's making content. It was almost like Vlogmas, but like for an entire year. Everybody was making content all day. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought there was a bug crawling on my butt cheek, and I just got nervous. There would be no reason why there would be a bug on my butt cheek. But anyways, we're gonna move past that. But it was just a lot, right? Everybody was creating content all the time. People who normally put up, maybe 2 to 3 videos a week were suddenly on YouTube every day. In between uploading content, they were live streaming. And it felt like you were inundated by beauty creators at some point. Also, speaking of live streams really made or broke some creators. I really don't like saying it like that, but it feel because it's like make or break and that rhymes, but made or broke sounds terrible. Moving on, it really made or broke some creators. And I feel like this also helped to propel dislike towards some creators, whether it was warranted or not, because In filmed content, like I'm doing now, I have the ability to cut things out. Like if I'm like, oh, I said this wrong, or I did this wrong, or I, said something stupid that doesn't make sense. I just go through and I edit that stuff out and I put together a well-formed video for you. No, just kidding. I'm so sorry. Please don't get after me for that. That was terrible. Anyways, I put together, a good cohesive package for you that is, not fraught with every error and mistake I made or every fart I passed whilst filming. Any who's-its, but when you're live, and I feel like at first it's great, right? Because you get to see how people really are in a lot of ways. You get to like see people in live action, like sitting there chatting, talking, and you actually get to know a creator. And for me, I'm always going to say this, like it's one of the reasons why I absolutely adore doing makeup content live, because I get to answer questions live time. And it's cool because even if I don't answer like your specific question, like you personally post a question about, say, this lip color, and we're like, what lippy are you wearing? Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. And somebody else asked it. I may not have seen yours, but I might see the other person. So you get your question answered. And it's just it's so much fun to interact that way in live time. However, it also showed sides of creators that maybe people didn't like. Myself included. I'm annoying. I get it. It's fine. I don't care. This is who I am as a person. But there were people who would see that and be like, I don't think I like that. I think I like edited you better, which is fair, right? You come to the live stream and you realize like, wow, this is kind of nutty. Like when Emily and I first started live streaming, those live streams were literally like, they were 3 hours long, some of them like 3.5 hours. They were marathon streams. And eventually I had to be like, hey, you know what? People are going to start going back to work, whatever. And honestly, for my own mental health, I need to like not be streaming for 3 straight hours. It's a lie. Because it's like then the next day it's like, okay, I'm gonna put this content up, and like I don't have the energy to respond to comments, like all of this kind of shit. So you start like kind of bringing that down. But also live streams have to be rewatchable, right? And during the pandemic, people didn't mind, like, it's still happening. The pandemic is still happening. The pandemic is still happening. Yeah. But at the start of this pandemic, people didn't mind kind of sitting through, having that on in the background, because it was like you had somebody there with you, especially if you were a single person who lives alone. It was like you had somebody to talk to. You could talk back to the television or your phone, like whatever it was. It didn't feel like you were so alone in the world as like more and more things started locking down, and the reality of how long this was really going to last started to hit. Because initially we were told like a couple of weeks, then it was like, oh, it'll be over in a month, and now we're still here. But it felt very scary and lonely, and it was nice to have that get picked up, right? To have somebody there. And I feel like a lot of us as creators also felt a responsibility in some ways, at least I know I did, to kind of be there for people who were having a hard time. My content wasn't just about like me growing, right? It was also really about me being like, hey, I know it's tough out there. I get that like some of y'all are lonely. I'm not really having a problem because I'm a fucking introvert and I don't want to be around people as much as possible. But I understood that there were people who were having a hard time and suffering. And I felt like not necessarily not really a responsibility, but also I really wanted to like just be there for people and let them know that they weren't alone, and let them know that like there would be something for them. And I feel like a lot of us did that. And then also other creators not only did that, for y'all, but also we're doing it for themselves. Like, at least I have somebody to talk to. I'm stuck in my house by myself, right? But as this kind of raged on and then the death toll began to rise, things changed. Watching beauty content for some felt frivolous. It didn't feel like something you should be doing while your friends and family members were passing away from this deadly disease. This is a very deadly virus, And it just felt odd to be excited about an eyeshadow palette when realistically it felt like nothing mattered anymore. Things kept getting worse. The political climate kept getting worse. There was a freaking storm on our US Capitol. Like, things just didn't make sense. The world was starting to like not make sense. And for some people, beauty content just seemed too frivolous with everything that was happening, which understood. For other people, beauty content was a way to escape the ugliness of the world. And so they did kind of fall off in another way, because they did feel maybe like, even though it was an escape, they felt like maybe they shouldn't be allowed to escape from the ugliness in the world. They felt like maybe I shouldn't be allowed to have these moments of joy because the world seems like it's falling apart. And I think when you add all of that in together, it just felt kind of, for some of us, wrong, right? Even though at the start of this, there's kind of two camps, I feel like, with makeup. There were people who, for the first time, were really putting on like all the makeups and enjoying themselves and trying new things and honing their craft and getting better at it. And this was like a moment that they wouldn't have because, you know, getting ready for work, they didn't have time to like try to play with a cut crease and, you know, all of the things that they always wanted to try. They just had to put makeup on, get to work, right? And now all of a sudden you had these opportunities to really like beat your face to the high heavens, which was something you hadn't been able to do. For other people, because they weren't going anywhere, they were the folks that like literally only wear makeup to go out places. They don't just like beat their face because it soothes their anxiety like I do. Like I will literally for no reason at all just put on makeup, just be like and go nowhere and do nothing. Like I'll convince myself like I'm gonna stream on Twitch after I'm done. I don't stream on Twitch after I'm like, it is what it is, so sorry. But I feel like for a lot of folks it just seemed unimportant. And it wasn't just beauty content, it was anything that didn't seem to be focusing on what was happening, because it just felt wrong for some of us, especially like I said, as people were losing people close to them or people that they knew, people that they worked with were passing away from COVID. It was becoming a very real thing. It stopped being something that was just kind of in the peripheral of our lives and started to really hammer down that like not only was this very deadly and very dangerous, but it was getting worse. And it seems currently like there's no end in sight. I think that when the pandemic started and it started the way that it did, we were all kind of uplifted by each other. The community was trying to lift each other up and be like, we're gonna make it through this. And then it just started to feel like, yeah, I mean, I can't really worry about, you know, $125 eyeshadow palette when realistically, like, I'm afraid to go outside. Like, I'm afraid to go anywhere. I have a fear of walking out into the world. Everybody was like, well, not everybody, but those of us who understand that it's real, wandering around, we had our masks on, you know, just frightened of like anybody even breathing in our direction. And as that reality started to like come to roost, essentially, we kind of retreated from beauty content. I think some people leaned into it more because it was just a safe space for them, like especially like a lot of people who work in the medical field. I feel like a lot of them did in fact need this kind of content because they were like, yeah, no, I work 12-hour shifts and I'm seeing the horrors of what this is doing, and coming home and watching somebody just like soothingly slap makeup on their face and talk about, you know, dumb things that are happening to them. Not, you know, dumb, but like just talk about little things that are happening in their lives is what I need to kind of distance myself from the horror that I have to see all day, every day. And other people looked at it and was like, you know, people are dying and you're over here talking about a makeup palette. And I feel like everybody's valid in their feelings, but I do feel like the pandemic definitely changed the way that people felt about watching beauty content. And it also felt a lot like you just couldn't feel comfortable and confident in buying makeup. And on top of that, it felt like we kept buying makeup, but we couldn't go anywhere. So that's, I feel like, my final point. Who knows? We always know that I just talk until I feel like I've gotten to the end point. But we bought all this makeup and we couldn't go anywhere. Because initially when it started, it was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get all this shit. And then wow, I'm going to be banging when I get into the office. And then it was like, no, we're not going into the office until this time. And then it kept getting pushed back. And, you know, once we understood how dangerous and deadly this was, the idea of actually like going anywhere for any prolonged period of time frightened a lot of us. We couldn't really wear our makeup anywhere. Nobody was going to see it anymore. And like, there's a fun thing about like, we create art, not just for ourselves, but like, so other people can see it, you know, you're like, look at, oh, and realizing we weren't really be able to go anywhere. We weren't going to go back into work when we thought we were going to. All of these things started to change it. Our buying habits started to change. And I also do think it did cause a bitterness for a lot of us, because when you can't do the things that you normally want to do, right? You want to be able to go out. You wanted to go to the club. You wanted to dance. You wanted to go to concerts. Like a lot of the things that you were buying was in preparation for when things opened up in the next month or so, and then it didn't. And so a bitterness starts to rise, right? You start getting angrier at creators who are still buying makeup and still talking about makeup and, you know, still putting in links and doing all of the things. And it felt like they're just going on like this isn't happening. Ugh, how dare they? And it just started to feel upsetting in more ways than one, because it felt like, do you even care what's happening? And it's like, yeah, I care, but like also I don't want to live in it. I can't live in it. Like me personally, my mental health, I cannot live in the darkness of the world. It will actually destroy me. I won't do well. I know there are a lot of people who can comfortably delve into dark subjects. There's levels where like I just don't like to see what's going on in the world, to be honest. I really try a lot not to see it, because once I see it, it just kind of envelops me in a warm blanket of depression, and I can't like get out of it. And so I feel like there's so many people who felt like there were people who just didn't seem to care that this was happening, especially as we started to watch influencers just go to parties and not care that there was a pandemic, and not quote unquote use their influence for good. Although I have feelings about that subject as well, but it just seemed like the rich were just going on with their lives. They're going on vacations, they're going to private islands, and the rest of us were still here stuck in our homes dealing with the reality and ramifications of what was happening. And I think that truly started to change how people felt about it, especially if you were watching any of the larger creators and just watching them go party and like not give two fucks that they were like not wearing masks, no social distancing, and people were actually literally dying from these parties. You know, they were there, they contact trace it back, and they died. And there was no accountability. There was nobody really saying like, yeah, I took part in that, and for that, like, I'm a horrible human being, and I should, not a horrible human being, but like for that, like I really should have thought this through. It felt like a lot of influencers just couldn't be bothered to like not be seen to just deal with a pandemic. The LA scene was just full of everybody being like, well, we don't care, we need to be seen, how we can't, you know, how are we supposed to make money? Social media is how we make money. And I'm like, I don't know, produce good content. You don't have to go to a party and be seen on a social media site for me to know that you're interesting. But because you're doing this, honestly, this tells me that you're not at all interesting, if this is what you require. Boring. So it just, I think watching creators, especially, you know, the young TikTokers, and then also big beauty creators who should have known better, just like not caring, created like this sense of the beauty community is a bunch of uncaring, unfeeling assholes who don't seem to know that there's a pandemic going on, and they want us to spend all of our money on expensive makeup so that they can live their lives. And I understand that, because I myself got caught up in the feeling of like a lot of creators do, who honestly, this is another full-time job. Let me just say it that way. But we have a 9-to-5 job, and then we have this job. So we have 2 full-time jobs. And I feel like there were a lot of us out there, and I've talked about about this previously, who were like, if I can just make this my job, then I can do the thing and it'll be fine. And so I feel like there was also a lot of push from us creators to try to make this our source of income. And in so doing, I for sure see content from that time period that I don't like, because I know that I was in this like weird, desperate situation where I was like, I just gotta make this an income, and then that way like it'll be fine and I can be autistic and ADHD in my house. But I had to like calm down and start realizing like it's gonna be what it's gonna be. You know, if I have to go back and find a 9 to 5, I have to go back and find a 9 to 5. That's okay. That's fine. I'm gonna be all right. I can still create content. It's not the end of the world. And I think that all of these things together combined, like being able to kind of see creators actively trying to make this their career, seeing creators actively, especially in live streams, promote their PayPals and their Cashapps, myself included. Remember, I'm not exempt from my own criticisms. Thank you. And it felt like, wow, it started to feel not like the beauty community that was there previously. It really felt, I feel like that's definitely where a lot of the money hungry feelings came from. I feel like they were always like, there's always going to be that undercurrent, but it definitely reared its ugly head when you saw people in live streams, like several people just like hitting people with $125 and all of this stuff. And you're like, what? I don't know why I keep saying 125, but here we are. But it just, you're looking at this, you're like,
what the fuck?
You know what I mean? Like there was just this overwhelming feeling of everybody was just out trying to make money instead of like create positive and good content that was interesting. Because some of my like, you know, my pre-pandemic content, I had a good time with. It was fun and I was like enjoying myself. And I felt like as I started joining the rat race to try to make this my job, I was like disappointed in a lot of, like there's a lot of content that I'm just disappointed in. I don't like it. I'm like, it is what it is. It's up. But now it's just like there's a calm in this storm. And I also feel like we're seeing the results of that rush, of that intense push to have content for everybody and be there for everybody and be caring about the social issues that were happening and like all of the things that it felt like you were having to do in that time frame. I feel like we're seeing what's happening, what the pandemic has wrought. We're seeing more and more creators just take time off. And I'm not even going to call it YouTube burnout because I don't feel like it's even the same thing. I feel like this isn't just a feeling of like, oh, I'm not creative and I don't have any ideas. It's a feeling of like, I'm just really tired. I'm just really tired. I've been going nonstop. I feel like some of us were filming 3 or 4 videos a day just to try to make sure that like there was stuff out there for people to be able to enjoy and have something to rely on in all of this. And I think that after a year and a half of that kind of a push, people are tired. The viewers are tired because there was so much content that it was hard to keep up. The creators are tired because not only were they creating all that content, but also being seen in that different light, I think really took a toll on folks, especially people just decided they didn't like you, taking off to threads and talking about what a piece of shit you are, or how you're disingenuous or how you're not relatable. A lot of these things just made you tired. And I also feel like as a creator, when you normally wouldn't go seek out what people are saying about you because you were home, you did. Because like listen, when I'm in my 9 to 5, I don't have time. I don't have time to see people like dislike me a lot on a thread. I don't have time to go see how much they hate me and hate my makeup style and think that I am stupid and whatever it is that they think about me. I don't have time because like I go to work, I get up in the morning, I have to walk Bo, go to work, come back, walk Bo, get him all settled, get everything going. And then it's just like, I just want to rest. I just want to relax. And so I think that like the pandemic exhausted us and still continues to exhaust us. Hi there. I cannot believe I forgot to put this in here, but finally, a huge thing is that because we were all home, I feel like as a viewer, I was far more critical of creators than I had ever been. Like, I was always kind of critical, but I mean, I was nitpicky, and I feel like a lot of people got significantly more nitpicky around their creators. Every little thing became a problem or an issue. They weren't speaking up, or they were speaking up too much. It just got like really difficult, and I think that added to the exhaustion from everyone, because as a subscriber, the exhaustion I experienced from trying to make sure that I was being as critical as possible of every creator was pretty high. And then as a creator, watching how critical people could be of other creators with literally every little thing. It was just like, oh my God, you ate a banana in a pandemic, bitch. It was really intense. And I'm not saying that people weren't doing terrible things, because they were, and that we always need to make sure we're calling that out. But because we were home, I feel like that laser focus of criticism was so high, and it's continued, and I feel like it's finally starting to level out to like the regular level of criticism. But I do feel like the laser focus that we had on creators was very intense and caused a lot of us to just feel like, I don't really want to be here if the whole thing is going to be criticizing people for every move that they make. And sometimes just like, we just want to enjoy the content. I want to make content and enjoy myself. And I just want to watch content and enjoy it, you know? All right, that's it. Sorry. Back to the video. But I do think we're starting to see like the slowdown in content. People are going back to more of their original content upload schedules. I feel like viewers are starting to like slow down how much content that they are consuming. They're no longer feeling like you have to be there that day to see what's happening. People are going back to work, or like their work from home situation has become permanent, whatever it is. But I think we're just like, we're finally starting to hit a leveling out of the like super intense pandemic content creation section of the beauty community. And I think that that's it. I don't even know if that sentence made sense, but we're going to stop there because my eyes are dry and I really want to play some more Mass Effect 2. I'm on Mass Effect 2 now. I'm very excited for myself. Go me. All right. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do me a favor. Give this video a thumbs up. So then that way the algorithm goddess can do what she does best, which is push me further down into the algorithm so that I can do whatever the fuck I want to. As usual, huge shout out to my patrons and spooky bays. Yeah. Thank y'all so much for all that you do. I'm having such a good time with our 6 Degrees movie nights. This is like such a fun time, and I thank y'all for showing up for those. I appreciate y'all for allowing me to create the content that I want to create and the fun spaces that we have in our live streams. For all of you who watch, like, subscribe, and share, I appreciate you as well, because all of you in some way or another help to keep the bats in the belfry and the spiders firmly ensconced in their webs. All right, you know the drill. It costs $0 to be kind. It's so good for your soul, because if you don't take care of your soul, I am definitely for sure coming for it, because spooky season is almost upon us. And this is when I grow most powerful. Until next time, XOXO. Gothic girl. Drop a heart, break a nail. Sorry, I burped. We belong to. We're going down in an earlier round. And sugar, we're going down swinging. Both so black, he got black armpits just like me. Why did I say that aloud? I'll be a #1 with a bullet. A loaded God complex, cock it and pull it. We're going down in an earlier round. And sugar, we're going down swinging. I'll be a #1 with a bullet. A loaded God complex, cock it and pull it. I love it. I love it. I love how I used to like not know that part. I just go down, doodle, wow. Why?